My $12,000 custom ATV. The only thing that gets me to my VA appointments was stolen out of my own driveway, and the thief didn't sneak away in the dark. She live-streamed herself doing donuts in my yard, laughing into the camera. They told me she was untouchable. They were wrong. That morning started like any other desert air cool and still the kind of quiet that makes you notice the little things, the tick of cooling metal, the smell of engine oil mixing with creosote, and then the hollow silence when I opened the garage. Space where my ATV should have been, just concrete and the ghost of tire marks. Fresh circles carved into the lawn like someone had signed their name in destruction. And right on cue, Brooklyn Thornfield roared past my house phone, held high, my ATV under her. I didn't chase. I didn't shout. I've been a combat engineer. Chasing thieves isn't in the job description. I set traps. But to understand why a 19-year-old felt safe stealing medical equipment from a disabled veteran in broad daylight, you need to know how it started. 8 months earlier, the slow creep of power wrapped in bylaws and boardroom smiles. When I moved into Willowbrook Estates, I thought I'd found peace. Neat lawns, quiet sidewalks, flags that came down after the holidays. After 2 tours and months of recovery, quiet felt like a gift. My VA therapist told me to build something, so I bought an old ATV frame at auction and rebuilt it with custom hand controls for my prosthetic, molded the seat to fit, wired a kill switch, and without fanfare, I got a little independence back. It wasn't a toy. It got me to appointments, the grocery store across trails, where walking long distances wasn't realistic. It smelled like engine oil and freedom and quiet mornings, and every bolt I tightened felt like something being put right. Then the white envelope showed up taped to my door. Violation notice. Bylaw 47C, unauthorized vehicle storage, $500 per day after 72 hours. 5 minutes earlier, I'd left the garage open to vent the heat. That's all. 5 minutes. Whoever watched knew that. Whoever wrote that letter had been watching. Her name was at the bottom, Delilah Thornfield, HOA president. And in that moment, I understood the real rule in Willowbrook: quiet wasn't peace, it was surveillance. I took my case to the next board meeting: industrial carpet cleaner, stale coffee, folding chairs, the whole suburban ritual. Delilah sat at the long table, perfect posture, perfect hair, authority like perfume. She read the violation like a script. I handed out VA documentation, explained ADA protections. Then the back door opened and like a stage cue, Brooklyn strolled in, phone up, camera pointed. "Mom," she said loud enough to carry, "is this the military guy?" A ripple of uncomfortable laughs. Delilah's smile tightened, and the meeting felt smaller. They tabled the violation pending review, not a win, not a loss, just more time for them to plan. After that, the pressure came, quiet and precise. Anonymous violation emails with timestamps while I was at the VA or asleep. Security cameras neatly spray-painted over, not smashed but blinded. Motorcycles and a Jeep circling my house at night, gravel thrown on the lawn. Beer cans through the garage door. A coordinated campaign that smelled like choreography. When I called the HOA security, Delilah herself answered syrupy calm and suggested maybe Willowbrook wasn't the right fit for me. That was the insinuation, maybe you should leave. Their tactic wasn't enforcement. It was exhaustion. You learn how pressure is used as a weapon when your job involves ordnance and field fixes. Confusion is a strategy. Emotion wastes energy. Preparation wins. So I stopped responding to emails. I stopped calling security. I prepared. I bought trail cams, motion-triggered, infrared, the kind hunters use, and hid them where the spray paint couldn't reach. I installed a stealth GPS tracker inside the ATV frame, small enough to disappear in a cavity, and wired a remote kill switch to the ignition encrypted to an app on my phone. I built redundancy into the surveillance cameras, uploading to an off-site server so a vandalized lens wouldn't erase the record. The garage looked the same on the outside, a quiet, ordinary bay, but it was bait. What changed everything was a quiet knock from Carlos Vega, the pool guy. He'd been doing contracts in the neighborhood for years. His eyes told the story before his words did. He handed me a number and invoice for emergency roofing that read $47,000 when the job should have been $12,000. Carlos swallowed, said it was strategy one vendor preferred vendors' inflated rates. Then Meredith Hendress, a retired teacher, knocked on my door with 3 years of records. "This isn't governance," she said, folder in hand. "It's extraction." Patterns emerged: invoices, shell companies, the same names showing up across communities. It wasn't a rogue neighbor, it was a system. That's where Cassidy Walsh stepped in. Not a headline chaser, just someone who listens and pieces things together. She brought county filings, LLC stacks, and a quiet, methodical way of looking at numbers. "We've been tracking her for 8 months, Cassidy said. The math added up: multiple HOAs, emergency work sole source contracts, millions moving under the cover of neighborhood maintenance. The Financial Crimes Unit had a preliminary file, she said, but white-collar investigations move slow. They needed leverage. Would create probable cause for immediate action warrant searches. Paper fraud takes patience. A public felony creates urgency." I felt the pieces slot into place. They had been pushing testing boundaries, seeking to humiliate. They wanted me to fold. If Brooklyn made the sort of reckless, broadcasted move she favored, federal investigators would have the opening they needed. So I baited the trap with patience rather than anger. I left the ATV where anyone could see it, taped a "for sale" sign to the handlebars, told Carlos a buyer from Mesa was coming tomorrow. Scarcity makes reckless people move fast. I left the garage open at night like careless, confident systems, armed cameras rolling, kill switch primed. The choice wasn't mine anymore. At 3:47 a.m., the motion alarm pinged. Brooklyn moved like a pro, lockpicks out, gloves on, deliberate. She crouched, worked the cylinder under infrared, and for a moment she was inches from taking it quietly. I could have called the cops then. A clean arrest, a neat stop. Instead, I watched as she bolted into a waiting SUV, the attempt recorded. She'd rehearsed. She hadn't yet given the spectacle the neighborhood craved. The next day, I rolled the ATV into the driveway, taped "for sale" across the bars, let word leak, and waited. Predictable as a clock at noon, Brooklyn hit record and took off, live streaming from the handlebars, with thousands watching, revving through the country club, weaving among golf carts, public stage set. She was broadcasting felony grand theft of federally classified medical equipment with commentary. She wanted witnesses. She wanted humiliation. When she hit the valet circle, I tapped the kill switch. The engine died mid-rev like someone had pulled the plug on reality. Confusion flashed across her face. Then 3 black SUVs glided in, no sirens, just precision agents in plain clothes. "Brooklyn Thornfield, step off the vehicle," a voice called. Her smile flickered, then snapped away as handcuffs clicked in front of her own audience. The live stream captured her arrest, 9,000 viewers watching the illusion of untouchable collapse in real time. The felony gave federal agents the probable cause they'd needed. Warrants rolled out that night. The Thornfield home searched, banker boxes labeled and stuffed into evidence bags, hard drives tagged in evidence. Delilah's empire unraveled under the light. The words racketeering and wire fraud don't belong in HOA minutes, but there they were, echoing like a gavel. It wasn't cathartic theater. There was no chest thumping, no vindictive dance. When Delilah was led away, she turned and spat, "You caused trouble." I said quietly, "You called my medical equipment a nuisance. You told your daughter people like me should know their place." The truth landed harder than any curse. Neighbors came out of their houses that night, not to cheer, but to witness folders and handproof they'd been holding for years. For the first time in a long time, people stood on their curbs and watched power get unpicked. Months later, the courthouse did its work. Brooklyn pleaded guilty to felony grand theft and disability-based harassment. Delilah faced RICO charges, forfeiture, and federal prison. The Thornfield mansion sold quietly, emergency HOA elections installed honest oversight, and Carlos ran for president of the board because he wanted transparent invoices, not power. Budgets became public, vendors bid competitively, and HOA dues dropped because oversight replaces graft. The ATV came back, not as a trophy, but as what it had always been. Transportation independence, the sound of an engine humming against a desert sky. I turned half of my garage into a small workshop where veterans show up on Saturdays, adaptive kits, kill switches, coffee hands that know the work. We fix mobility, not just machines. The first time I watched a Marine with double amputations take a modified ATV across a dirt trail and laugh, I knew the work mattered. If there's a lesson here, it's not revenge. It's structural patience. Light documentation and a refusal to play by someone else's rules will collapse systems built on shadow. Power isn't just money or connections. Real power is knowing the law, understanding leverage, and having the patience to let arrogance undo itself. Untouchable is just untested. So here's the question I leave you with. When does holding someone accountable stop being justice and start becoming vengeance? Drop a comment and tell me where you stand. Was I right to let the system do the work, or should I have called the cops the first night? Share your stories about HOA nonsense, power gone wrong, or a time you watched arrogance get its comeuppance, and if you've been through something similar, tell us how it ended.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.